Welcome, 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 my fellow visionaries. We are back again for another episode of the Royal Diaries. So, this one is kind of a simple, straight to the point. And it was a good day. It was a good day because I trusted my instinct. Um, and sometimes I feel like that's hard to do when you hear others saying, no, don't do this, don't do that. It's hard to have that inner voice that tells you, trust what you know. And in this case, that is what I did. And it was based on data. So you'll see that. All right, so let's get into it. Every kingdom is shaped not by its ruler, but also by those who faithfully serve the crown. Within these walls live individuals of remarkable character. Some strengthen the kingdom, others test it. Every one of them serves a purpose. Welcome to the royal kingdom. Lord Percy, today has been a wonderful day of trusting myself. Skills were honored, and additional data was collected. And most importantly, the system was executed with ordinary excellence. I'm super proud that I waited for this trade. The neighboring kingdom on YouTube was cheering for their ruler to take the cell. But based on my analysis, a cell would have been a gamble and short lived. Well, no one asked me. And subsequently, they took the cell. Within minutes, I heard groans from the distant kingdom. There were complaints and whispers spreading throughout their kingdom to hit the break-even button. The ruler of that kingdom took partials and eventually did hit the break-even, while our kingdom continued to wait. We waited for the buy that we had envisioned, and at 10:17 a.m. it appeared. The majority of Parliament was saying, this is a buy. Upon cross-examination, there was one member of Parliament stating this could be a sell. However, the Queen did listen. The Queen also researched previous data with Lord Percy, and ultimately, the Queen was confident of taking a buy based on data. Based on the previous data, the Queen entered the trade, hoping for a 1-4, but still heeded the concerns of the Member of Parliament. And as a result, the Queen paid close attention as the trade unfolded. Ultimately, Parliament again presented excellent information, which aided the Queen in manually closing the trade at a mere 1-2, rather than the initial 1-4. This was based on a double top beginning to form on a validated key level. The Queen was happy with the execution, considering the available data, and considered this to be a trade worthy of the one of the three trades for the week. Although we didn't hit the actual hoped for profit, we did make more profit than usual. The Queen is content. The advice of Parliament was heard, taken into consideration, and together the trade was once again executed with ordinary excellence. The trading session is complete. Today's journaling has been completed as well. Laptops are closed, and the kingdom is free to continue with their lives. Young Richard has borrowed this journal and is reviewing the previous data. Lord Percy removes his spectacles and looks around the chamber. There is no celebration, no fanfare, only the quiet satisfaction that follows a day governed well. My queen, today's session deserves recognition, not because the treasury grew larger, but because the crown grew wiser. This morning, the neighboring kingdom was ruled by voices. Our kingdom was ruled by evidence. When their ruler hurried to answer the market's first invitation, the crown remained still. Patience is often mistaken for inaction, yet today it proved to be one of our greatest strengths. We did not refuse to trade, we simply refused to gamble. What pleased me most was not the buy itself, but the proceedings that took place within Parliament. When one member expressed concern, Your Majesty did not dismiss the objection because it disagreed with the majority. Instead, you welcomed it. You examined the previous records, questioned your own assumptions, and allowed the data, not emotions, to cast the deciding vote. That is conduct of a wise ruler. Equally admirable was Your Majesty's willingness to revise the plan. The original objective was a noble one, yet a ruler must never become so devoted to the destination that she ignores what the road is saying. As new evidence presented itself, the double talk, Parliament advised caution, and the crown adjusted accordingly. That manual close at the 1-2 was not a retreat from the plan. It was the execution of a better one. Many believe discipline means refusing to change one's mind. In truth, discipline means changing one's mind only when the evidence earns the right to change it. Another matter deserves mention. At the conclusion of this session, the laptops were closed, the journals completed, and the kingdom returned to life beyond the markets. This, too, is governance. A kingdom that never leaves the war room eventually forgets what it is fighting to protect. And finally, I am delighted to hear that young Richard has borrowed a journal. Do not mistake his curiosity for a coincidence. Every page he reads is another lesson that reckless impulse is no match for documented wisdom. We need not silence him by force. We simply continue filling the library with evidence until he finds it difficult to argue with the truth. Today's victory was not a 1-2. Today's victory was that the crown trusted preparation more than prediction, listened without surrendering conviction, adapted without abandoning wisdom, and concluded the day's work without carrying the market into the evening. That, Your Majesty, is how kingdoms prosper. The Royal Archive shall record this day under the lesson, Evidence is the kingdom's loudest voice. Now, the chamber grows quiet, the journals rest upon their shelves, and the kingdom is at peace. For today, the queen governed herself. Until tomorrow, Your Majesty, may the remainder of your day be wonderfully ordinary. For I have come to believe that ordinary excellence creates extraordinary lives. So, guys, that was my day today. It was a pretty good one. It was a little nerve-wracking because sometimes I do watch other YouTubers or other traders, and it's kind of crazy when you hear like someone who's super experienced or you believe them to be more experienced than you hear them saying, take this trade. And you're thinking, no, like I don't see that. Or I get into a trade before they do, or they get into a trade before I do. It's a little nerve-wracking, but the more that I collect data and journal, is the more that I trust myself. And truth be told, sometimes it's been flipped around where I trusted something, they trusted something different, and it worked out for them. Sometimes, but I will say, when it comes down to what my winning rate is growing to be, and it's based on my data, it's based on evidence, not emotion, not just, oh, this looks good. It is more and more convincing me that I need to listen to my own voice. So I am grateful for people because I believe when it comes to trading, it can be, I've heard people say it can be lonely. That's why it's good to have a balance of your own personal life, but it's also nice to not just trade by yourself, to like actually have a, I don't necessarily have a group that I trade with, but I do watch a lot of YouTube videos. I will say that. Or I have. I don't necessarily watch a lot of them now. I more watch stuff about building and land and real estate and all that. But anyway, I digress. Um, so I have in the past, I've watched a lot, and at some point, I will tell you too, at some point, it's important to silence those outside voices because I always say everyone sees a chart differently, everyone perceives a chart differently. And if you are listening to your own voice, but then other voices are disagreeing, you have to know when to listen to your own voice and why. If it's based on data and evidence, then absolutely. But until then, you could be confused and not know what to listen to. So it's important to make your voice strong, build it on data, build it on evidence, build it on time on the charts, and then put up those kingdom walls. Like, don't allow other voices to come in and tell you, no, don't do that, don't do that. Trust what you are building. So, anyway, that's all I've got for today. It has been a pleasure, as always. And my voice is going a little bit, so I'm going to cut this short. And I do want to say to everyone, the question that we leave our fellow visionaries with is, have you governed yourself today? Have a great day.